Fellow Americans.
You might be wondering, why in the world is there a 30-minute countdown before the show starts? Well, we actually start live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time, so this whole 30-minute countdown is a chance for YouTube and Rumble to send out their alerts and notifications, so we encourage you to gather up and hang out with everyone in the chat room. So every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time is when we do this show live. You can join us for the countdown if you like, or just set your clock and reminder that at 4 p.m. Eastern is when we go live. You can also make sure you subscribe and turn on that bell notification, so hopefully you will get a notification.
What do you have to say about dictators of countries like Indonesia, who we sell weapons to, yet they are slaughtering people in East Timor? What do you have to say about Israel, who is slaughtering Palestinians, who impose martial law? What do you have to say about that? Those are our allies. Why do we sell weapons to these countries? Why do we support them? Why do we bomb Iraq when it commits similar problems?
There are various examples of things that are not right in this world, and the United States is trying. I really am surprised that people feel that it is necessary to defend the rights of Saddam Hussein, when what we ought to be thinking about is how to make sure that he does not use weapons of mass destruction.
I'd like to...
Who are shouting, just a moment.
I'm not defending him in the least. What I am saying is that there needs to be consistent application of U.S. foreign policy. We cannot support people who are committing the same violations because they are political allies. That is not acceptable. We cannot violate UN resolutions when it is convenient to us. You're not answering my question, Madam Albright.
You briefed the press, did you not, when you were there?
Well, I had several jobs. One of my jobs was that of analyst. I also was an interrogator and indeed briefed the press when we, the CIA, wanted to circulate disinformation on a particular issue. Disinformation is not necessarily a lie. It may be a half-truth. And we would pick out a journalist. I would go do the briefing and hope that he would put the information in print.
What was your percentage of success?
We were pretty successful in planning information of a rather rarefied nature. For instance, if we wanted to get across to the American public that the North Vietnamese were building up their force structure in South Vietnam, I would go to a journalist and advise him that in the past 6 months, X number of North Vietnamese forces had come down the Ho Chi Minh Trail system through southern Laos. Now, there is no way a journalist can check that information. That's data derived from radio intercepts, spy in the sky photography. So either he goes with the information or he doesn't, and ordinarily or usually the journalist would go with it because it looked like some kind of exclusive. Go after these gentlemen. I would be directed to cultivate them, to spend time with them at the Caravel Hotel or the Continental Hotel, to socialize with them, and slowly but surely to try to gain their confidence by dolloping out valid information which was true. And then I would drop into a conversation the data that we wanted to get across, which might not be true. One piece of data, for instance, that we managed to plant in the New Yorker magazine had to do with a supposed North Vietnamese effort in 1973 to develop airfields along the border of South Vietnam. The reason we wanted to plant this information was that we were trying to persuade the U.S. Congress that Saigon should continue to get a great deal of aid, and that the North Vietnamese were the chief violators of the ceasefire accord. That was printed in the New Yorker magazine under the byline of Robert Chaplin, as indeed was a great deal of such information which we tried to circulate.
Frank, a two-part question. What were the objectives of what was the objective of the CIA? What about the moral implications of what you were doing in feeding disinformation? Did the objective override the moral implications, moral problems?
Well, the objective of the agency in general is to generate intelligence and get it back to Washington, to get at the truth and make sure the policymakers understand it. When you plant disinformation, you are diverging from that objective, and I think probably in retrospect it was very counterproductive. I am, as an ex-CIA agent, opposed to the disinformation activities in which I was involved. I admit that I was involved, and I think it served no useful purpose. Propagandizing the American public or Congress is not the CIA's job. As to the morality of what the CIA was doing or that particular activity, the war was a very relative thing. It was a relativist environment, and morality seldom came into play when you were operating in the field. In my estimation, a CIA man should be amoral. That may sound pretty shocking to somebody, but what if my morality were that of a Nazi or agent, if you will? You wouldn't want me to be your intelligence officer. Keep the morals out of intelligence. Keep the truth in, and stay away from disinformation.
It would have been more appropriate for Mr. Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, to address this House according to Article 144, an article which was specifically designed to debate violations of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, which is clearly the case with Mr. Trudeau. Then again, a Prime Minister who openly admires the Chinese basic dictatorship, who tramples on fundamental rights by persecuting and criminalizing his own citizens as terrorists just because they dared to stand up to his perverted concept of democracy, should not be allowed to speak in this House at all. Mr. Trudeau, you are a disgrace for any democracy. Please spare us your presence. Thank you.
radical colleagues, but the answer to war is not more war, it's peace. And peace isn't delivered by the barrel of a gun, it's delivered by diplomacy, by dialogue. You can wish away your continent's history, but we share a continent with Russia. We will sit down with Russia. There will be a negotiated peace, and this organization should be promoting it earlier rather than delaying it and making sure that more Ukrainians die. Your feigning of sympathy rings hollow. It makes me sick, to be honest with you.
We become involved when disinformation poses a threat to the security of our country. It is when there's a connectivity to a threat to our country. It could be a threat, a connectivity to violence. And what this working group does, is precisely what I would think you would want it to do, which is to take a look at the work, the disinformation work that our department has done and ask the following questions. Do we have policies? Do we have guardrails? Do we have standards?
But here's the problem.
Ensure,
We can't even agree. We can't even agree what disinformation is. You can't even agree that it was disinformation, that the Russians fed information to the Steele dossiers. You can't agree to that. How are we ever going to come to an agreement on what is disinformation so you can police it on social media?
Senator, I have 2 points, if I may finish. Number one, that what this working group does, because it's not an office, what this working group does is ensure that there are guardrails, definitions, standards to make sure that the free speech rights, the civil rights, civil liberties, and privacy rights of individuals.
So do you think COVID disinformation threatens our national security?
And number two, if I may, Senator, and number two, is it your proposition that when the cartels spread disinformation with respect to our immigration policies to try to lure vulnerable migrants to our border illegally?
I think you've got no idea what disinformation is, and I don't think the government's capable of it. Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Are you familiar with McNamara, the Pentagon Papers? Are you familiar with George W. Bush and the weapons of mass destruction? Are you familiar with Iran-Contra? I mean, think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech. You think we can't determine, speech by traffickers is disinformation? You think the American people are so stupid they need you to tell them what the truth is? You can't even admit what the truth is with the Steele dossier. I don't trust government to figure out what the truth is. Government is largely disseminating disinformation.
Hey everyone, just as a reminder, our show starts at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, just a few minutes from now, but I should remind you that we have a daily newsletter. It's totally free. Natalie and I work very hard on it every morning over our cup of coffee, putting the stories together that we think are important that the mainstream media is going to ignore. All you need to do is go to our website. It's just redacted.inc. Put in your email address. We won't ever sell your email to anybody. And then you'll receive a welcome email. And all you need to do is verify that email, and 7 a.m. Eastern Time is when we send out our daily newsletter. And it's about 5 or 10 minutes in length that you can read it over your cup of coffee. And like I said, we cover 4 or 5 of the big stories of the day, plus a couple of things you might have missed while you were sleeping. We try to have some fun with it, add a little humor into it. And again, it's a great way to start off your morning. But it's also a great way for us to stay connected with you as well, because We've been banned and blocked on some of these platforms before, where we haven't been allowed to post anything, not even a community post. So the only way for us to stay connected with you is through our newsletter. We were able to send out a newsletter and say, hey everyone, we're blocked for the next week, and let you know what was actually going on with our show. Anyway, go to redacted.inc and sign up for the free newsletter, and it'll be posted first thing in the morning over your cup of coffee.
This is a bit of an aside, but in terms of how you think about problem sets, when I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses.
We had a good discussion on ensuring global energy security and adequate oil supplies to support global economic growth, and that will begin shortly. I'm doing all I can to increase the supply for the United States of America, which I expect to happen. The Saudis share that urgency, and based on our discussions today, I expect we'll see further steps in the coming weeks.
Are you worried about
One of the hopeful things that I've discovered is that nearly every war that has started in the past 50 years has been a result of media lies. The media could have stopped it if they had searched deep enough. If they hadn't reprinted government propaganda, they could have stopped it. But what does that mean? Well, that means basically populations don't like wars. And populations have to be fooled into wars. Populations don't willingly and with open eyes go into a war. So if we have a good media environment, then we'll also have a peaceful environment.
Killed a million people in Iraq.
That is a separate...
You killed a million people in Iraq. It's incredible that you have the brass neck to be sitting here now urging another Iraq war.
George,
after
if
what
I
you've
was
already
still in
done.
Parliament, I...
There can be no doubt that Saddam Hussein has biological weapons and the capability to rapidly produce more, many more. And he has the ability to dispense these lethal poisons and diseases in ways that can cause massive death and destruction. If biological weapons seem too terrible to contemplate, chemical weapons are equally chilling. UNMOVIC already laid out much of this, and it is documented for all of us to read in UNSCOM's 1999 report on the subject. If we consider just one category of missing weaponry, 6,500 bombs from the Iran-Iraq war, UNMOVIC says the amount of chemical agent in them would be in the order of 1,000 tons. These quantities of chemical weapons are now unaccounted for. Dr. Blick says, quipped that, quote, mustard gas is not normally. You are supposed to know what you did with it. We believe Saddam Hussein knows what he did with it, and he has not come clean to the international community. We have evidence these weapons existed. What we don't have is evidence from Iraq that they have been destroyed or where they are. That is what we are still waiting for.
Okay, inspection worth doing, everybody's agreed it's worth doing, and it gets stopped.
Yes, sir.
At that moment, we're an automatic pilot as far as you're concerned. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, I respect that. But now, it seems to me the Secretary of State might have a slightly different problem. Secretary of State might be sitting there and saying, now look over there on that side. Now, I remember so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and the 12 people on this side, they're all the ones that said they didn't want to use force. Now, I'm going to have to go tell the president now that we should, or Secretary Cohen, unleash whatever it takes to get it done. And our military assessment is the same as the majors. The majors' assessment is, privately held but publicly acknowledged later, that airstrikes alone aren't going to do this. Saddam's not going to cave on this. So, now here's the deal. I recommended the president have at it and let the chips fall where they may. A reasonable position for the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State to take. But I respectfully suggest, Major, I respectfully suggest they have a responsibility slightly above your pay grade. Slightly above your pay grade. To decide whether or not to take the nation to war alone. Or to take the nation to war partway. Or to take the nation to war halfway. That's a real tough decision. That's why they get paid the big bucks. That's why they get the limos and you don't. I mean this sincerely. I'm not trying to be flip. Because I think, and that's what I said at the outset, the reason why I'm glad you did what you did, we should come to our milk. We should make a decision. But in terms of whether the Secretary of State has no more to consider than you do as the arms inspector. You didn't get in, didn't get my job done, get me in. Period. You made the deal, right? That's the deal. A deal's a deal. Get me in. Scott Ritter, I'm ready to go. It's not how it works. Now, maybe it should work that way. But wouldn't you acknowledge that if you were President of the United States or the Secretary of State, you'd sit there and say, now, okay, old Scotty boy didn't get in. We said he should get in. We want him to get in. It's important that he does get in. They're not going to let him in, so what are we going to do now? We know that France and Russia aren't going to be with us. We're quite confident China's not. We've already run those traps. They're not there. We're not sure where the United States Senate is, but have at it, boys. Go get them. And by the way, Scott and the boys say air power's not enough. I think it's a legitimate debate, Scott, Major. I think it's a legitimate debate. But I don't think we should be putting it in the context of you have somebody up there at state saying, look, how can we weasel out of this agreement? We want to let this guy out there hanging. We're not this. It's a very practical political decision. Same kind of decision General Powell made. Same kind of decision President Bush made. Every president, every Secretary of State has to do it. Like I said, they get paid more than you. Their job's a hell of a lot more complicated than yours. They may have made the wrong decision, and you brought it to light. We should address it. We should say straight up where we are, and we should do it. And for that, I thank you. But it's above your pay grade.
about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon, and one of the generals called me, and he said, "Sir, you got to come in and talk to me a sec." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." I said, "We're going to war with Iraq? Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. He said, "I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
Hey everyone, Clayton here. The show is going to start at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I should remind you that we have a VIP community. It's our Redacted Rebel VIP community. Now, this show is totally free, what you're watching right now, right? You can subscribe here on YouTube and Rumble, totally free. But if you'd like to support independent journalism, we are run by you. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this show. We wouldn't be able to hire the team that we have. We wouldn't be able to afford the servers that we have. We wouldn't be able to afford the reporters that we have, the team that we have. So you can support us by going to redacted.inc, and on the right side of your screen, you'll see a VIP community button. Just click that, and for the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support us. We put out exclusive content, early interviews that no one else will see, live streams just for our VIP Rebel community. So again, it's totally free to watch this show. But if you do want to support independent journalism, we would really appreciate it. Come on over to redacted.inc, click on that community button, and decide if you want to sign up or not. It's totally up to you. We thank you. And meanwhile, the show will start in just a few moments at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Whatever our hopes may be for the future, for reducing this threat or living with it, there is no escaping either the gravity or the totality of its challenge to our survival and to our security. A challenge that confronts us in unaccustomed ways in every sphere of human activity. This deadly challenge imposes upon our society 2 requirements of direct concern, both to the press and to the President. 2 requirements that may seem almost contradictory in tone, but which must be reconciled and fulfilled if we are to meet this national peril. I refer first to the need for far greater public information, and second, to the need for far greater official secrecy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Hey everybody, welcome into Redacted on this Monday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday and hope you got to spend some time with the family. If you were in the United States, that's when Thanksgiving holiday is. And if you didn't have a Thanksgiving holiday, I hope you got to enjoy some family time. We've got a lot of news to get to on this very busy Monday. We're going to look at this massive Russian assault and what that means for the future of this war in one of the most important sort of strategic cities. We're also going to look at Zelensky, who new documents uncovered something very interesting about some big purchases that he must have made recently in the past few weeks, and all with American taxpayer dollars, presumably.
We're also going to look at a new United Nations proposal from UNESCO that basically amounts to like the pandemic treaty, but for speech censorship. It's basically the United Nations wants the right to set global rules about censorship and misinformation and how and why to punish speech, all in the name of democracy. This is something to pay attention to. It will set your hair on fire. Sorry to give that away. Don't mean to give you spoilers, but that's what that is.
We're also going to look at China and a new respiratory virus. See if you've heard this before. New lockdowns, masking. The panic is real, and the world, this is exactly what they want, of course, is to push us into more lockdowns and masking and all of that once again. And we're also going to look tonight.
By they, we don't mean China. We mean the World Health Organization.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily what China wants.
Yeah, I wasn't going to give it away. Yeah. So did I say who? I said who.
No, you said that's what they want.
Oh, okay.
You didn't specify the they.
The they, the who. The WHO being the World Health Organization. Also, we're going to look at the band. Americans get so frustrated trying to go shopping. Today's Cyber Monday, and people are like, we want to go to these stores. We want to be able to support American businesses, but a lot of these companies are so woke. And they push these, transgender ideology messages down our throats. They push their ESG garbage down our throats. Where can we go to actually find American first companies that stand for the United States Constitution, stand for free speech, stand for free values, American values? Well, we've got a special guest on the show today that has uncovered thousands of American companies that stand for the U.S. Constitution, stand for American values. We're going to talk about all of that and more as Redacted starts right now. Welcome, everybody. Hope you guys are doing really great on this Monday. Welcome into Redacted. Hey, if you do subscribe to the big channel, I see that in the analytics, many of you watch the show, and then YouTube unsubscribes you for some reason. They do this like once a month. They unsubscribe you. I don't think Rumble does that. Rumble, like when you subscribe, and I think it actually keeps your subscription. But for whatever reason, YouTube unsubscribes people.
Oh, for whatever reason. We're going to talk to you about misinformation later on today. And
I guess that's what it is.
We'll see what those reasons could be.
So if they do that, then please go back and resubscribe, and your name will pop up here on the big board. Go ahead, Philip. You're up.
I've got big news. I finally received my first notification from YouTube that Redacted posted a video.
Wow. All right.
Finally.
What is going on? It's taken you to working on the show as our technical director and working and being here for 2 years before YouTube finally sent you a notification. That's amazing.
Yeah, I got it the other day, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, really? Because I posted that like 5 days ago.
Given that Philip watches the show 3 times a day, did you then watch it because of that notification, or did you feel like you were good on that?
I hope you took action on that notification. Otherwise, they're never going to send you another one.
I did actually open it, yeah. I did actually open it, yes, I did.
Wow.
So.
A miracle. You know what? It's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah.
It really is. We're changing lives.
Well, you know what I have noticed in researching these stories today, I had a little bit of a pep in my step because I was researching stories about Israel, and then I saw the mainstream media telling a little bit of the truth. Like, not all of it, but more than normal. I was researching a piece about China. I saw a reasonable headline out of Bloomberg. I almost fell out of my chair. So maybe the things that we have been risking ourselves to talk about all of these years are becoming more acceptable to talk about. Maybe. It's a silver lining. I'm sort of feeling that way. Let me know if you are sharing that sentiment. Maybe we're turning a corner.
Maybe, perhaps. I don't know. Let us know. And let us know where you're joining us from tonight. Nice to see you guys. Marcio in our chat tonight says, I actually got the Redacted notification today. Wow. Angela Taro says, I got the notification today. Wow. Okay, so you guys got some notifications. Let us know in the chat if you actually received notifications. But you should also be receiving our daily newsletter, and it's totally free. And we would love for you to sign up. It's the #1 newsletter in the world for news. And Google has labeled us as dangerous. When it comes into your Gmail folder, sometimes Gmail labels the morning newsletter as dangerous because it's truthful news. We cover about 4 or 5 of the big stories of the day, but without the propaganda. We try to cover and give you the real story. And all you need to do is sign up for free. Is just go to redacted.inc. That's it, not .com, it's redacted.inc. And you can read it in about 5 or 10 minutes over your cup of coffee, like these fine folks. These are Redacted viewers just chilling out in their bed, reading the Redacted newsletter. She's reading it. He's fooling around on his phone. She's informed. He's not.
Yeah.
Just go to redacted.inc, sign up for free, and you'll get a welcome email from me, which comes from Clayton at redacted.inc. Just drag it over to your inbox so that you won't, it won't go in your spam folder or something like that. And tomorrow, Tuesday morning, you'll get it first thing in the morning.
Yep.
At the as my dad used to say, the ass crack of dawn. Son, you're gonna get up and go fishing. The ass crack of dawn.
Why
tomorrow.
didn't you tell me I had this hanger thing? You know, those little hanger loops. You got to tell me, honey, if I have wardrobe malfunctions.
I didn't see that. I only see beauty, and I only.
Nice of you to say.
I only look into
you. I don't check
see.
It over.
When I look at you, I don't see imperfections. So if there's like some errant thing on you, I just don't see it. I just see beauty. That's what I see right there.
Yes.
All right. How you doing, David?
I'm doing good. I just got out of the Redacted store. And I'm not going to comply.
It looks like a Halloween costume.
Oh my
You look like a dude that only shops at one place.
Yes.
You just shop at one store.
You shop at the Redacted store. I'm okay with that. Redactedstore.com.
Non-compliant water tastes so much better.
I'd like to see my kids when I say sweep the kitchen after dinner, and they're just going to come in that shirt.
Yeah, I will not comply.
I will not comply.
Mommy,
I'm not doing
you ask me to do chores around the house, I will not comply. You want me to wear masks? You want me to, go into lockdowns? I will not comply. All right, let's get to the news, shall we? Well, Ukraine's top general now admits they need 20,000 men per month to join the military, or they are finished. 20,000 men. Where are they going to find 20,000 men in Ukraine? The answer is they won't. We'll have more on that part of the story in a second. We have to get to that in a moment. But first, would it surprise you to learn that Ukrainian President Zelensky somehow managed to buy 2 multi-million-dollar yachts. That's right. Totaling $75 million. And he did this apparently just a few days ago, according to documents. You might want to hide your purchases when you're Zelensky, though, because you have to have friends sign your paperwork for you so you can actually hide it, right? Do it through either a money laundering or a proxy. That's how you buy things if you're Zelensky. Remember when there was all that furor about a year ago when his wife was begging for money from world governments and then was also caught having gone to Paris and buying all those expensive jewelry and bags and everything. So so America sends you a lot of money, and then your wife goes shopping in Paris. See how that works? Well, now Zelensky has bought 2 yachts, according to journalist Shazed Nasir. 2 of Zelensky's closest friends. Now keep this picture up on your screen. 2 of Zelensky's closest friends purchased 2 yachts, and they're moored in Abu Dhabi and Antibes. Just a few days apart, they purchased these. 2 friends who are brothers, Sergei Shafir and Boris Shafir. Now let's see if you can guess which one is named Boris.
I can't read the name tag.
I'm guessing the one on the right.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to say, like, if you had to pick these guys out of a lineup, can you guys name the guy named Boris?
Okay.
I'm going with the guy on the right. I'm just saying.
There's an archetype for the name Boris.
I think so, and I think he's living up to it. Boris.
You're looking at it. You're looking at
Boris. You're looking at fat and happy Boris. So here are the documents. According to the documents that this journalist has uncovered, the 2 yachts are named Lucky Me and My Legacy. The one you're looking at here on your screen is Lucky Me, and the other one is My Legacy. See in the upper left-hand corner of your screen there, and you can see the purchaser, and you can see the name right there in the second box, and you can see the purchase date and the purchase price. $25 million for that one, and the other one is there it is, $49 million. If you round up with some taxes and so forth, it's $75 million total. So is this where Zelensky will spend his days in exile after he's thrown out of government? You can take a look and see what the My Legacy yacht looks like on for sale, and you can see the beautiful photos, and they do a full video and fly over with drones, so you can really get a sense of it, you know?
Oh, I look forward to watching our government seize it when he is called a Ukrainian oligarch.
Right, exactly. That'll never happen.
Well, I was going to say, he can take it to sail to Italy and stay in his villa, right? His $50,000 a month villa.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was another purchase, of course, that was uncovered by some eagle-eyed journalists. Americans, of course, are paying for this luxury, though. Your tax dollars, so Zelensky can live in luxury. Now you might say, wait a second, hold on a second. Perhaps his close Boris friends there just wanted some yachts, and it has nothing to do with Zelensky at all. But not so fast. Because there's where they say where there's smoke, there's fire, and they've done this in the past. And according to the Pandora Papers, we've covered this extensively here on the show. The Pandora Papers revealed Zelensky used these proxy buyers before for other proxy purchases using offshore accounts in the Virgin Islands and Belize. The Organized Crime and Corruption Project found that, I love the name of that, by the way, the Organized Crime and Corruption Project found that Zelensky's current chief aide, he's like right-hand man, Sergei Shafir, was part of that offshore network. He makes purchases on Zelensky's behalf. Offshore companies were used by Shafir and other business partners to buy pricey London real estate and pricey African real estate and pricey Italian real estate, and now some pricey yachts. As Politico magazine points out in a new profile spread just released today, and I can't believe Politico released this, Zelensky played the role perfectly, as they say, as they honored him with their Most Powerful Men Award. So you know how like Time magazine has their Person of the Year? Well, here's Politico with their Most Powerful, and he's labeled Most Powerful because, quote, Ukraine's president brought the war to the West, convincing people that his battle against Russia is also theirs, and giving him the authority to make Europe do what he wants. Can you believe Politico wrote that?
Another word for that would be thug.
Yeah? Yeah. Instead of most powerful person, thug of the year?
Well, that's basically the definition of a thug, is to bring your dirty business to other people to fight for you and then bend others to your will, right?
Bend the knee to the thuggery.
No, it doesn't. Okay.
Yeah, bend the knee.
Bend the knee, but that's
bend the knee, giving him the authority to make Europe do what he wants. That's Politico. Those aren't my words. That's Politico magazine.
With that thug-like sketch. I mean, that's not meant to be a flattering sketch. That's no longer he's the guy who doesn't need a ride anymore. Like, I do want to say, remember the accusations of making, can we leave that up on the screen for a little bit? If we look at the way the media portrays people, recall that Time magazine darkening Obama's skin, or the caricatures that we've seen of Trump. Like, look at the shading of this now. Look how they're presenting him now. It's no longer him as a hero, Ukrainian Captain America. This is almost like a wanted ad.
Yeah, look at the wrinkles under his eyes.
Especially pointy nose, right? Like,
yeah, the only thing missing is the teardrop tattoo under his eye.
Does he have one?
No, but maybe he'll have one soon.
He should have literally 70,000 for all the people he's got killed.
So Biden spokesman John Kirby was asked, given this amount of money that we're funneling over to Ukraine, it's being spent on yachts and luxury cars and luxury villas. And we've seen Ukrainian oligarchs showering, birthday presents, money at their daughter's birthday presents and so forth. Should Americans, ultimately this is the question, right? Like we're telling us we're going to war against Russia. We're funneling all of this money to NATO to go to war with Russia. Does this benefit the United States? In what way does this benefit Americans? Like, do you feel benefited by this? Should we keep shoveling money at Zelensky in this way? Should we keep shoveling money to Ukraine? And he says, John Kirby says, yeah, it's our duty to do it. It makes America stronger.
Supporting Ukraine strengthens our national security. It's the right thing to do, not just for the Ukrainian people, but for the American people as well. Countering Putin's ability to wage war on a neighboring nation may actually prevent a larger conflict in which American troops might be needed. And it sends a strong signal to other would-be aggressors who may be considering military action and invasions of their neighbor's territory that sort of action is unacceptable, and they will pay the consequences. They will be held accountable by the United States and by the international community.
All right, so it's America's best interest to keep sending that money.
That sounds to me like the exact opposite. No, it sounds to me like the exact opposite. Like, how is getting involved in everything that goes on not getting us more involved in war? You know what I mean? It's like he's like, oh no, by getting involved in that, it keeps a broader conflict from getting out of hand. It's like, but we're getting involved in it. We're already making it a broader conflict.
Right. We created the broader conflict. Do you not understand? Like, we created the broader conflict by us not being there, not building all of these military bases there, not sending HIMARS there. We would be lessening the conflict, right? De-escalate.
Right.
We're not.
His body language shows me he doesn't even believe that BS.
No, he doesn't believe it at all. They go home at night, these demons, and I don't know what they do. They must what do you think they do when they get home at night? Get into some sort of weird bath?
Morphling?
Weird, some sort of blood bath or something.
Like in the Hunger Games when all the politicians have to take that little morphling to not have feelings.
Ugh.
That's what they have to do. That's exactly what we've got.
So that's John Kirby. Interesting that the head of NATO, though, Jens Stoltenberg, was asked the very same question today and about the money and the weapons to Ukraine. And he took a different stance, actually, admitting that Ukraine hasn't done shit with all that money. They haven't moved an inch. Listen.
Then, of course, what we have seen is that even with this substantial, significant military support from NATO allies, they have not, over the last year, been able to move the front line. And that just reflects the fact that we should never underestimate Russia. Their defense industry is on a war footing. They are able to resupply their forces with ammunition and new capabilities. They have got significant amount of ammunition from North Korea, and there is a willingness to sacrifice people in this operation, which also makes it hard for the Ukrainians to achieve the territorial gains we all hope for. But rest assured, I'm absolutely certain that the message from NATO allies at this meeting, but also when we gather later on at the Washington summit, is that we need to stand by Ukraine. It is in our security interest that President Putin does not win this war.
Yeah.
Wait.
Thought you guys would enjoy that.
They're willing to sacrifice people, and that's unfortunate.
Right. He says that Russia is willing to sacrifice people. That's how you can't really beat Russia. We're not willing to say. He basically draws the conclusion that we are not willing to sacrifice people.
Aren't you though? Are you not
laughable.
counting? Have you not learned to count?
Over 400,000 dead now in Ukraine. I mean, we have numbers, which I'm going to get to in just a minute, which are astonishing from today. New numbers about how many Ukrainians are dying every day right now. But Russia is only concerned. No. You're not concerned at all about the amount of Ukrainian dead. NATO doesn't give a rat's ass. Otherwise, you'd be a member of NATO.
No, they're proxy deaths. They're not ours. They're theirs.
At all. They don't care. NATO is killing these people left and right, and they don't care about it. And what about all those Russian sanctions, which you guys were telling us all about, right? All these Russian sanctions that have actually hurt the West more. They haven't done crap to Russia. Instead, Russia today, Putin said Russia's banking sector is doing great, and he was asked specifically about these Russian sanctions. Listen to his take on the banking sector in Russia. This is Today. Watch.
Наши недоброжелатели, видимо, не рассчитывали на то, что банковский сектор России будет проходить таким образом все сложности, которые создаются извне. Не учли, казалось бы, элементарную вещь, что банк — это не просто кубышка, где деньги лежат, а это часть экономики. И банковская сфера отражает состояние экономики в целом.
Безусловно, конечно. Ну и банковский сектор готовился, конечно, к разному развитию ситуации, но экономика оказалась устойчивой, поэтому мы видим экономический рост.
И банк функционирует. На этой базе, конечно.
Ну и знаете, все-таки еще раз показало, что нас не удалось изолировать. Поэтому вот расчеты в национальных валютах идут с дружественными странами очень активно, невзирая на всякие вторичные санкции и прочее.
Yeah. So he looks actually pretty healthy for a guy the West told us died last month.
Twice.
I think he died twice last month, right? Putin did. All of this comes as new reports out today show Russia is decimating what's left of Ukraine's pregnant women army. Today's numbers show Ukraine is now losing 650 people per day. That's on the low end. The estimates are now between 650 and 800. I went with the low number. 650 per day. And Russia has launched devastating advances in the siege of Avdiivka. This is a strategic town, of course. That siege started last month. Probably the most important strategic position for Russia in a town in former eastern Ukraine, a gateway to Donetsk, and it's about to fall into Russian hands completely. And Russia isn't even throwing many troops into this particular battle. Even Ukraine admits they can't do anything to stop Russia at this point. Ukraine says Russia committing few troops to the Avdiivka battle. Few troops. But perhaps the most shocking report of all just managed to be translated from Ukrainian this morning into English. And something big is happening in Ukraine, guys. I think you're going to see this blowing up over the next 24 hours. It's nighttime there, so we'll see how this trickles overnight. But it's getting big right now. No one is reporting this in the United States. Hat tip to Moon of Alabama for getting this translation. And then now Ukrainian papers are picking this up. Member of Ukraine's parliament is calling for Ukraine's General Zelensky to resign because he failed to turn in a Ukraine battle plan for next year. Just let that sink in for a minute. There she is. That's Mariana Buzagalagia. She admits that she had this discussion with Zelensky, the top military brass, and then she wrote about it on her Facebook page. Now, remember her, because I don't think she's long for this world when you see where we're going with this.
Or at least her career. Let's not wish her...
No, I'm not wishing her any ill will. She's telling the truth here.
Just avoid any windows. Avoid any windows.
People have a funny way of disappearing there. Anyway, Mariana posted to her Facebook page. She had this meeting with them, and then she posted on her Facebook page about this private meeting with Zelensky. And she says, yes, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces could not provide a plan for 2024. Neither large nor small, nor asymmetrical nor symmetrical. The military just said they need to take at least 20,000 citizens a month. This discussion was non-public, she writes, but the tension was growing, and now the situation is such that if the military leadership can't present any idea for 2024, then such a leadership should leave, she wrote. She's asking him to resign. She's asking Zelensky to resign. So Zelensky wants 20,000 men per month. That's not going to happen.
Without a plan.
Without a plan. Well, there's no plan. That plan, the 20,000, is just to barely survive. It's to basically keep throwing.
To not survive.
To not survive, but you're just basically throwing, men against a wall and hoping the wall will not collapse on you. That's basically what you're doing. Zelensky, as Moon of Alabama reports, has no plans for 2024 because there's nothing he can do about the upcoming defeat of the Ukrainian army. Every time he urges to stop defending positions that cannot be held, like Bakhmut and Avdiivka, the political leadership tells him to use all reserves and to keep holding on. Every time he urges to build strong defense lines and retreat to them, he gets overruled. There is thereby nothing except one number that he can plan for. That number is the one of the irretrievable loss of the Ukrainian army is experiencing. Zelensky needs 20,000 new men per month to replace the losses and keep his army going.
Seems like he has resigned. He's all but checked out because he's got a losing hand.
I mean, it's like, why would I submit a plan for 2024?
Right.
We're not going to be here in 2024. We are done. We are toast. We're literally putting pregnant women in the trenches. So this afternoon, shortly before our broadcast here tonight, just about an hour and a half ago, now this is getting picked up in Ukrainian press in a big way. And the way they're spinning it is members of parliament are fueling rumors of Zelensky conflict, calls for the military leadership change. Ukrainian MPs seek to remove Mariana as head of the subcommittee with the National Security, Defense, and Intelligence Committee after her scandalously outspoken statements. So she lets the cat out of the bag about these private statements with Zelensky calling for his resignation. And now tonight, Ukrainian press is jumping all over her. And there's calls for her to be ousted. So what the hell's going on? But I predict some shit's about to hit the fan up there in Kiev. So she tells the truth about this. And 20,000, what's 20,000 going to, you're losing 650 to 800 people per day.
Right.
Where are you going to get these people from?
And that's someone trying to be a patriot, saying, I believe in my country. I want us to stop dying. I want this to end, right? So I'm going to tell the truth and get it out there. Well, what else can she do?
And you're basically demanding that citizens who have no military training take up arms against a well-trained military.
Yeah.
Right. You're getting nowhere.
Right.
There's a video today
to reclaim land for people who were tortured and asked to join Russia.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. It never has.
There's a video going viral today. I didn't include it in the show, but I'll talk about it now to David's point. It shows a Russian soldier about 20 meters away from a Ukrainian soldier who is just hit in the leg, in the shin, and is down. And he's like crying, like, please, I surrender. And so the Russian soldier knows they're under attack and, they're getting hit, puts his own life on the line, actually, and tells the Ukrainian, you have to stand up, raise your arms in the air, and we will come, gather you for surrender. And he says, I can't, I was shot in the leg. And he says, okay, stay where you are. And and he tells his men to cover him. He puts his own life on the line, goes about 20 meters, grabs the guy and pulls him back to Russian lines and saves his life. I know it's shocking in this war, right? Then he asks the guy, the point I'm getting to is, well, where is your stock break for your gun? Where's this other part of your gun? Where is this? And the guy says, I never had one. He says, what are they arming you with? You don't even have any equipment. He asks them, what are they arming you with? Like, this is what they're throwing at them right now. These guys that aren't even armed.
Right. And so when the West says, we need to stand with Ukraine, what they mean is like, let's give them some spit and glue and stones to throw, right? And they'll keep dying, and we'll be able to keep saying to the press that we're helping out. That's shameful. You should.
I wonder how many weapons those yachts, the money for those yachts could purchase.
Yeah, $75 million worth of yacht purchases. Maybe they could melt that down into bullets.
Yeah.
Hey, but the good news is BlackRock, in a $1 trillion deal, is now about to line up rebuilding Ukraine. So it's funny how that works out. Let us know your thoughts on this in the comments below, and we will watch this story unfold overnight. We're going to see what happens to Mariana up there in Ukraine, and we'll watch that very closely. We've got more news to get to. We're going to talk about the United Nations on hate speech tonight. Oh, they're coming after that. They want to protect you online. Will you let the United Nations protect you? We're also going to show you a place where you're going to be able to find American companies that support the U.S. Constitution and are anti-woke. They support U.S. freedoms. They support American values, and they won't lecture you about transgender ideology or ESG or any of that other crap. We're going to look at America First companies here in just a little bit. We have a special guest on that. I'm very excited. I actually learned about this through our friend Tucker Carlson. So I'm very excited to talk about this coming up here in just a little bit.
All right, but first we want to tell you about our friends over at Factor because it is the holiday season. Maybe you're looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days. That's something Clayton and I were talking about this weekend. We're like, people just keep giving our kids sweets. We need to put good food inside of them during the holiday. Everywhere I turn, the kids got a chocolate bar or candy cane or like a hot chocolate. The school's asking me to bring some cookies, and I'm like, stop, we're all going to get sick. So if you are like me, obsessed about packing nutrition into your family meals, you might want to consider Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service that can help fuel you up with real food, not candy, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle, even during the holidays. You can skip the stress of meal planning over the holidays, too, with Factor, because you can choose from 35 or more weekly flavor-packed, fresh, never frozen meals that support a healthy lifestyle and meet your meal preferences, all delivered right to your door and ready to eat in 2 minutes. And if you're looking for special occasion meals during the holidays, you can even do that. You can get out of a holiday meal, you guys, with Gourmet Plus options prepared to perfection by chefs and ready to eat in record time. Enjoy premium ingredients like broccolini, leeks, which my youngest calls licks, truffle butter, and asparagus. You can also get calorie-conscious options for the holidays that also taste great. And again, they have calorie-smart meals with around 550 calories per serving. So really, whatever your nutritional philosophy is in life, you can find it on Flavor. So check it out, or on Factor. Sorry, you can find Flavor with Factor. Check it out by going to factormeals.com/redacted50. If you use the code redacted50, you'll get 50% off. That's the code redacted50 at factormeals.com/redacted50 to get 50% off.
And if you guys subscribe, David Plumley just became a welcome to the rebellion, David. Nice to have you here. Thank you for subscribing. If you do subscribe, your name will pop right up here on the big board. So thank you guys so much. We're getting ready to decorate around here. I think it's time to decorate for Christmas. Okay. The Redacted studios are going to be festive. It's going to be get the Christmas tree out, get the candles, get the pumpkin pie smelling candles. I got my I will not comply tree on the way.
Okay. I have no gift for decoration, and I don't give a crap at all. So when Clayton's like, "What do you think of these cabinets?" I'm like, "Whatever." But do you want to see my spreadsheet? That's just not my. So when he's like, "Let's decorate from the holidays," all right, you do that.
Yeah, I don't do it. My daughter's not interested in it either, so we don't put up a tree or anything. It's just
what do you do with all that time?
You put up a Festivus pole.
Yeah, it's just not my thing. I just don't care. So, but you'll do it, and it'll be lovely.
I love
and everyone
the ambiance
will be
of it.
so glad that you did it for them.
And the kids will be happy, and it'll bring joy to their hearts. Yes.
Sure. I'm sure it does.
That's right.
I'm sure that will be the case.
All right.
We had a super chat earlier that says that whoever wrote it, I don't see the name at this point. I am a non-pacifist peace extremist. Thank you so much for joining the peace movement. That is our main goal here at Reaction. Reaction. I don't know why I'm just making up words today. At Redacted. Yeah, that's our new show name, is Reaction. Yeah. That's what we try not to do, is just react. Anyhow, peace is our
Uncle Max
is
so you're Mrs. Grinch then?
I wouldn't say that. I just don't care a whole lot. I don't want to take it from other people. What am I?
Lilith from Cheers. She was kind of like that about the holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it if you want to. I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to.
She's just not a decorator. When it comes to like design,
I just don't get excited about it for me. I don't want to.
She'd be fine having like just blank walls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much like Lilith from Cheers. She's kind of dressed like Lilith from Cheers.
Actually, I get that comment sometimes when I
Yeah.
wear my hair like this, that some people in the chat say I look like Lilith.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to more news, shall we? UNESCO released a plan to combat misinformation by creating what they call the Internet of Trust. That's not what you're on right now. You're not on the Internet of Trust. You're on the Internet of all things, I guess.
Watching Redacted, you mean?
In general, not on Redacted,
okay.
You're on the Internet of Trust. Well, I hope you trust us. You came here. But in general, they think they need to create it. The Internet of Trust. If you think that sounds Orwellian, you're not alone. What they want, in short, is along the lines of the World Health Organization's pandemic treaty that we've been talking about quite a bit. They basically want to create global rules for the Internet in the name of disinformation that leads to, you guessed it, censorship, right? So we're going to call this equivalent to the pandemic treaty, but it has nothing to do with health. It's basically a way for the UN to run the internet and censor speech. And they literally wrote it down for us all to see. This is not me extrapolating. I'm going to show you the actual plan, and you decide if you think this is an overreaction or not. I don't like it one bit, so buckle up. Let's go over this document of thinly veiled nefarious intent. Here is the plan for guidelines for the governance of digital platforms. Now, notice this report, the word safeguarding free speech with a multi-stakeholder approach. Anytime you see multi-stakeholder or even stakeholder in and of itself is a word that gives me pause. Now that there's multi-stakeholder, I don't like it even more. This means they can claim that something's good for everyone in a roundabout way, even if it's kind of a stretch, so that you could make the case that censoring COVID speech was for your own good because it allowed the government to tell us all what to do and what was good for everyone, and they think that was good, right? That's how they mean it. Like it's good for these people and these people, even if it's not good for this group, in the end, it's good for everybody. That's what they mean. What they suggest here is this multi-stakeholder approach. They're saying that they need to do this because misinformation wreaks havoc on democracy. You can see what it says here. Democracy, dialogue, and debate is essential, but it becomes impossible because of misinformation. They say, faced with the global nature of this, we need to develop consistent responses around the world. That means you can't allow free speech in, say, Brazil, if us in the United States and Europe want to censor. You got to censor too, Brazil. No freedom for you if we're taking freedoms over here. It's almost like, what do we call this, race to the bottom? Like setting the low tax rate. Like if we're all going to behave shitty, everybody's got to do it. These are rules for everybody. We're teaching to the lowest common denominator.
It's like what they're doing in Oregon with schools right now.
No, I don't think that's not what.
You're teaching to the lowest common. You're teaching to the weakest in the class. Right? You're basically
no. That's not it. Not it at all, really. No,
you're setting a low bar, and you're all right. Whatever.
Okay, what you're doing here?
Listen, Lilith.
You're setting some shitty rules, and you want to set these shitty rules, but you can't have other countries behaving freely. So you got to make them follow your shitty rules too. It's a standard of control, and it only works if everybody takes freedom. It doesn't work if some people still have freedom. So here's what they want to do. They say that here they want to propose online moderators in all languages over the whole internet, you guys. Online moderators in all languages, including indigenous ones, greater transparency of platforms and their financing with better risk assessment, the establishment of independent regulators, promotion of critical thinking, support for gender equality. Why is that there with all other types of inequality we have? We're pointing out gender. And above all, safeguarding and strengthening of freedom of speech, cultural diversity, and other human rights.
Yeah, I can't wait to learn who these online moderators will be. Who's going to employ them? Where will they come from? Will they come from the intelligence community? Will they come from MI6? Will they come from the CIA?
Oh, well, they say they don't know who exactly it will be. They're going to set it up, but when they do, they will be transparent about it. So I'm sure that's exactly what you want, is online moderators of the whole internet. How do you feel about that?
Well, these moderators, the people that they have at Facebook, the censors or whatever that they have.
Yeah.
We've done stories where those people are like they want to like kill themselves. They're so miserable and they're awful. And they're like 21-year-olds and they're just seeing like stuff all day and they have to make a decision and what they ban, what they don't.
Right.
And they're miserable and depressed and they last like a month in the job before they want to kill themselves.
Right. Now, these guidelines, they not only want them to be sort of best practices of the internet of the planet, they also want them to be international law, meaning it is superseding your country's own law. So let's say I'm going to use Brazil, like in Brazil, it's still allowed to talk about the COVID vaccine. They're going to say, no, these need to be laws for everybody. Look at this word here, how it's written. It says, depending on the issue and jurisdictional context, such governance process may take the form of a combination of complementary pillars, self-regulation, co-regulation, and statutory regulation. You see that word statutory there? That means they want these rules about online speech to be the law, not just good practice. Now, the document pays lip service to freedom of expression, but then here's where it gets to the heart of it. What it really wants to do is censor. And again, it's heavy on gendered misinformation. So there could be misinformation about all types of things, but it's saying like this is especially about hate speech and gender-based or racial hatred or religious hatred. It says they need to strongly discourage, including through measures such as professional codes of conduct, the public officials from disseminating disinformation, including all of these things, gendered disinformation, misinformation. Well, what do they consider gendered disinformation? Because the United Nations promotes gender ideology quite clearly, right? And so they are all in on a trans woman as a woman, even though biologically that's not true. That then feeds into the biopharmaceutical complex. So if I say, no, a trans woman is a biological man who should not be in a locker room with my daughter, that is maybe gendered misinformation that I would not be allowed to disseminate anymore. I don't know, the document, like I said, is very heavy on gender-specific censorship. Go ahead, David.
And not only not be able to say it, but it's saying law, which means you would be breaking a law, which means there would be consequences to breaking that law.
Yes.
Legal consequences.
Yes. Yeah. Now, it says that states should not monitor online platform, but then on the same page, it says that there should be content moderation. So who do you think that would be then? Take a look. It says states shall refrain from, and then if you look at B, basically content moderation, but digital platforms should, look at 30B, have content moderation. So who do you think that would be? It's not your government. It's someone that ranks above your government, because it just says there, it doesn't want your state to do it, it wants us to do it, presumably, us as in the United Nations, an international body.
Oh, you mean like the World Economic Forum? Or maybe
something like that.
World Health, unelected group of globalists that can put together a team.
Yes,
maybe.
Exactly right.
Get Klaus Schwab on it or something like that.
Precisely that group.
I hear Nina Jankowicz is looking for work.
Right, Nina Jankowicz, Jacinda Ardern. All these people, all these clowns. Justin Trudeau, soon, he'll be out of a job.
Yeah.
He could be a part of it. He could lead it.
Now, they call this unelected global officials, they call them intergovernmental organizations, intergovernmental collaborators who have the right to censor speech and create laws around that. Here's where they line up those roles. Now, again, they're not elected people. They're just people the United Nations will say, we'll make these laws, and then you don't have a right to work around it because your country has given up sovereignty to the United Nations. Again, it says they, should support providing technical assistance, monitoring and reporting human rights violations, developing relevant standards. And again, here's that word, facilitating multi-stakeholder dialogue and nurturing networks. And they need to share emerging insights and regulatory trends and support or making suggestions to national regulators to define institutional standards and methods of safeguarding freedom of speech and expression. So again, unelected people making laws for your internet. Now, they also say they need to work with each country's civil society to implement these rules, and they define those organizations as the media, schools, engineers, and social scientists. So those outfits, your school, the media will have to report to the United Nations to be clear that they are working along with the plan.
They're compliant.
To not disseminate any misinformation. They would have to report to those regulatory bodies.
I wonder if they would lose funding as a result of it, because that's exactly what usually happens in these situations. Is they're threatened with the that's what. Under the military arms control, the Military Act of 1967, of course, you can't turn down military recruiters coming into your schools, or for the risk of losing funding at your school, right? In the same way, if you don't comply with this, would you lose some sort of a funding?
But this is not federally funded. It's only federally funded in the fact that United Nations member states pay into the United Nations like a golf club.
Right.
And the golf club then sets the rules, and you have to comply with those rules, Miffy, or else you're out of there. But what does that mean for a violator of a member state?
Well, these member states, of course, have given over their sovereignty to the United Nations, to the World Health Organization, to the World Economic Forum. And so they defer their decision-making body to them.
Right. So let's play this out, because at least in the United States, we still have the court system that is supposed to work out when we have a violation of our First Amendment rights. So let's play out this gendered thing. And I say that person who's being, put in this locker room with my daughters is a biological male. And that is in violation of the new United Nations Internet of, what do we call it? Internet of Fun? Internet of Trust.
Internet of Trust, the circle of trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they say, you can't say that on the Internet of Trust about this biological male. And so you are in violation of that. Well, as it stands now, I'm fairly confident that I could take that to the Supreme Court and win. But what if this were a superseding law, a superseding document that supersedes the Constitution and the Supreme Court? That is highly possible with a document like this. I am giving you worst case scenario, and you are free to say, no, that's taking it too far, but it's written here.
Well, yeah, and it's not taking it too far when we already see the United States deferring decision-making to the World Health Organization. We saw it during the pandemic, giving them extra constitutional authority above the United States Constitution. So it's not a conspiracy at all. It's absolutely the case already.
Well, they wrote it down, and I'm showing it to you.
And every single platform during the pandemic used the WHO as a disclaimer underneath the content that that's who was right during this.
Yeah, great point. In fact, YouTube, which banned us a couple of times, took us down and blocked our channel twice because of COVID content, where we were reading Pfizer's own documents. They claimed it was a violation under the World Health Organization guidelines. So they were claiming World Health Organization authority. Now, it's a private company. They can do whatever the heck they want, right? But would the United States government do that above and beyond? I think they absolutely do.
Well, it remains to be seen if they can do whatever they want. They're going to find out. They effed around and find out with the Supreme Court case whether or not they can censor speech at the behest of a government. We're not sure yet. That hangs in the balance. But at this point, what we're looking at is whether or not we hand the United Nations the power to set the rules for the entire internet, the Internet of Trust, which is not the Internet of Fun, the opposite.
I want to go to the opposite of the Internet of Trust.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
I mean, that's the dark web, isn't it?
I guess it's the dark web then. Yeah, I don't know. Or just where you can actually post things and not.
But that is sort of how I feel Twitter is right now. Like I trust way more what I see on Twitter these days than what I see in any mainstream.
It is interesting
outlet.
Today. I mean, you bring up a good point. Today, Elon Musk goes to Israel, and Twitter, which he owns, is like a lot of people slamming him for going and meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. So there was a huge backlash on the platform that he owns.
Right.
Slamming him.
Yeah.
And then he comes out a few hours later and says, "Hey, I know this is trite to say, but I'm just for I'm pro world peace." Like that's so He didn't to what I know, he didn't censor anyone, but maybe we'll find that there's accounts that were banned because people slammed him.
That guy can take it. Now, here's one other thing I'd like you to look at that gives me gas pains. This is something they want to do, which is measure for electoral integrity on the internet. Election integrity, you say. So they want to actually control information during elections. How did they do when Democrats falsely said that Russia was interfering in our elections? Maybe if they'd handled that, then we would listen to them. But given that they're saying, well, we need to make sure what election information's out there. Basically, anytime any outside agency is regulating what can be said around an election, they are influencing the outcome of that election. Do you think the United Nations should be influencing the outcome of elections? I don't. And how do they define, again, stakeholders in elections, right? This idea of multi-stakeholder. They're going to say, what we're doing is for the greater good in the end. It's for your own good. You may not like it because you don't like Hillary Clinton, but in the end, it will be good for all of us. By all of us, it means them and their wallets. If Hillary Clinton wins, so we're going to make it that way on the internet, right? And we will censor accordingly with that sort of thin ice explanation. Again, this is a worst case scenario, but absolutely could be seen. The fact that they even wrote it down, that they're really worried about election integrity, that we can't share even false information in order to discuss amongst ourselves our vote. We should not be trusted to do that. So then what do we do, right? If we have information, even true information, which the United Nations has said many times that they think even true information can create an infodemic, then what are we going to do? We won't use the internet. I guess we use a whisper campaign. Now, of course, no UN document would be complete without special rules for an emergency. All rules are out the window if there is an emergency or a crisis. This is how they sort of lay that out. And again, we've seen over and over these governing bodies taking more rules under the auspices of emergency. So the fact that it's there, tells us that, like, it's basically hitting all the check marks. Like, if I had put the World Health Organization pandemic treaty and this document side by side, it plays all the hits, right? Censor, monitor, control, usurp state sovereignty, all of those things. So I'm going to encourage that you read it for yourself. We're talking about it today. I will put it in the newsletter tomorrow with a link to the original source so you can read it for yourself. You can find the Redacted newsletter at redacted.inc. It's a free newsletter, and we don't upsell you anything. I just want you to be able to read these things for yourself and see, what do you think? Am I overreacting? Well, it's here, right? You react. You decide how you react, if it's in line with mine or it's not. And maybe, it would be fine, all of these ideas of like transparency and integrity and truth and all of these things, although I subscribe to the philosophy that when all information is available, humans can discern for themselves what is true and what is not, but we have to be able to see false information to know the difference between true and false. They're saying, no, you only can see what we dub as true, and you can't tell for yourself because you're too stinking stupid. Again, if they had maybe done better during the pandemic or during the last presidential election or during the last few wars and said, you need to see everything for yourself. No, but instead, anything they don't like you to see, they try and turn your head away from and label it as misinformation. So these are not the bodies that we have reason to trust. So let us know what you think.
And we already know they also don't like. We already know that they also don't like truth that they find inconvenient. Like that, they've had that in other documents where they're like it's not even disinformation. They're like, well, we just don't like this truth, so that's outlawed as well.
Yeah.
So,
right. Yeah, and it's not even just the misinformation that they're worried about. They've literally admitted on camera, which we've shown you here, the downranking and hiding of climate information that they don't want you to see. So they literally work with Google to hide those search results. So, and moving it down further on pages so you can't see it at all, so that their information is first on the page, the United Nations.
Mm-hmm. So. Yes. Yeah. I mean, they don't really, at this point, downranking, it wouldn't even be necessary because it would just be an eraser for everything that they don't like. Like I said, it's absolutely Orwellian control of information. So, we've had guests on the show who have said that they think that the United States and other nations should withdraw from the United Nations. I am of that opinion too. I don't know how we can make that happen collectively, but if you have conversations with your local politicians, it is worth mentioning because this organization is not our friend.
Yeah, and what does it get us? The idea is that, well, we want to have a conversation. It's the place, it's the only thing we've got, right? The League of Nations didn't work. It's a place where we can all come together and actually have a conversation. But when the conversation isn't allowed to happen, or you're not even allowed to have a hearing because other members won't allow it to happen because they don't like it.
Yeah.
Russia has faced this, right? They try to have hearings on this. No, okay, well, we can't have it. We're not acknowledge that it even happened.
Well, look, we have how many votes in the United Nations about a ceasefire for Israel that took 3 weeks and none of them were enforced? We have history of the United Nations when Belgium withdrew from Congo. They said, oh, but we can't protect you from Belgium, but everyone else were ready to enforce your sovereignty. They had a two-state solution for Palestinians that never went anywhere. Like, what are they good for? They're only protecting their own interest. And it's not enforceable. So I don't see any value other than diplomacy, which could happen outside of the walls of an organization like that. So I really do think that the United Nations is, what do they call it in the Bible? The many-headed beast, the two-headed beasts, many-headed beasts. Like there is, there are, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, and Jehovah's Witnesses absolutely believe that the United Nations is
evil,
is an evil organization. And I never really thought about it until like I had left that organization and then started studying the United Nations. And in that respect, I think they're not wrong.
Let us know your thoughts on this in the comments below. You can weigh in on that and more. We've got more news to get to here on your Monday. We're going to look at the Chinese respiratory virus and how it's the World Health Organization is saying, get ready for lockdowns, get ready for masks. We are ready for the next pandemic. We knew it was only a matter of time. And of course, a lot of the fake videos surfacing on the internet right now are really interesting out of China, but they want you to be locked down and ready to go. We're also going to look at American first companies that stand with American values, and that is the Constitution first. They won't lecture you about transgender ideology and all of this. We're going to speak to a guest in just a few moments here on the show. I'm excited to talk to Michael, who's going to be joining us, to tell us how they've actually found America first companies that you would want to spend your money on, specifically on Cyber Monday or whatever else you want to go shopping. These are all American, mostly all small businesses in the United States. Wait till you hear this. I'm excited to talk with him. But first, here's an exciting announcement for right now, Cyber Monday, because there's a huge mega sale happening right now at our friends over at BioOptimizers. And look, you might have your Black Friday wish lists, but I challenge you to make health a top priority this year, whether it's getting a good night's sleep or eating better, all the things that really matters. And that's really where Magnesium Breakthrough from BioOptimizers comes in. It's a true game changer in the quest for a better night's sleep. I just finished a book by a heart doctor, who I think the name of the book was Stay Off of My Operating Table. And he talks about magnesium and how good it is for you and how important it is. And he doesn't talk about a lot of supplements. He doesn't talk about a lot of vitamins, but this is one that he actually singles out and talks about as being really important to your health. And I thought it was really interesting. Anyway, it's been a game changer for us because we'll take magnesium, really helps you get a great night's sleep. And it's the only product I trust because it combines all 7 critical forms of magnesium into one convenient bottle. So when you supply your body with these essential magnesium forms, you're in for an incredible upgrade. BioOptimizers has a big sale happening right now through the entire month of November. The biggest discount you can get and amazing gifts with a purchase are only available on our link. You have to use our link on your screen right there. It's biooptimizers.com/redacted. biooptimizers.com/redacted, and then use the code redacted when you're checking out. You'll have a golden opportunity to stock up, get some good stuff for the rest of the year. You won't find a better deal anywhere else, even on Amazon. So right now, choose health over unnecessary things this Black Friday. Head over to biooptimizers.com/redacted. Enter the code redacted at checkout. All right.
We're being told that the lamp behind me is flickering. So
yeah, I think it's the United Nations flickering.
Or it's the upside down. So if you don't see me tomorrow, please check the lamps and I'll let you know where I am.
It's the Christmas flickering of the Christmas candle. Okay. Or either that or it's the United Nations coming for us to shut us down. Who knows?
All right. Let's talk about this new pandemic, because the World Health Organization is urging citizens in China to return to masking and social distancing protocols and get a vaccine. They don't say which one.
Just get any of them.
Oddly enough.
Just go get one.
Because they don't know what the heck this is. It's hilarious that we're going to see how little they know about this, how thin their evidence is, what crap organization they got it from, but they're saying get a vaccine, but they don't say which one. It's almost too good to be true. So what are we supposed to think here? Well, I think there are a few things to look at critically. One, China is saying this is not a serious outbreak. Now, recall, China said that about the COVID-19 pandemic, and that turned out to be valid, right? I think that now we can agree that the world overreacted to the COVID-19 pandemic and made many mistakes based on anti-China sentiment. Would you agree?
Yes. I think so.
We know now that we hurt children with lockdowns. We hurt people with mask mandates. We hurt the general population with vaccine mandates. So here's an idea. Maybe this time we listen when China says we don't think it's that serious. I don't know. It's just a thought. I'm just putting it out there as a thought experiment. Now, the WHO, the World Health Organization, told us that the COVID-19 pandemic was life-threatening and serious and made us all mask up and distance, and they never apologized for what research they didn't have and were not following. So how can we trust them? Well, let's take these things in reverse. Now, first, here's the statement from the WHO on what they're calling clusters of respiratory illness in children in northern China. They explain what they think this is and what China has said about it. And then here at the end, they say, here's what they recommend we should do, is that people in China follow measures to reduce the risk of respiratory illness, which include recommended vaccination, keeping distance from people who are ill, staying home when ill, getting tested, and medical care as needed, wearing masks, good ventilation, regular hand washing, all of that stuff. Now, vaccination, what vaccination? They don't even know. It's just like get some vaccinations. Do regular vaccinations. And pick one, anyone, right?
So
pick
if I step on a rusty nail, that'll help me against this thing?
Yeah, I guess
I'm
any
going for the
old
rabies one.
Okay.
Rabies.
Leishmanosis.
Leishman's. Isn't that a dog disease?
It is, and so
Okay.
is rabies.
Okay.
But, you know, they're saying get vaccinated. So here's what they say they know about this. Now, it looks like, oh, okay, those are thick paragraphs. They must know some stuff. They don't. So here they are quoting this media and ProMed. Who the heck are those people telling us?
ProMed?
Oh, I'm going to tell you who ProMed is. But also media, okay, are reporting clusters of undiagnosed pneumonia in children in northern China. Now, I want to know, how do you report undiagnosed pneumonia? How do you know if someone's not been diagnosed?
Right, if I don't
and they're
know.
just walking around? Do we have this social monitoring in place?
Like if my daughter is fine, she's walking around, do I just call up and I'm like, I'd like to report my daughter has something. I don't know what it is.
They're diagnosing remotely, and I'm going to show you this. Go ahead, Philip.
Well, it's getting on the media part. Like, is the World Health Organization? It's supposed to be that the media that they report on things that come from experts, not the other way around.
Yes.
That is bizarro world. Like if the health experts are like, well, what does CNN say about this? Oh, okay, that must be true.
Right.
What in the hell is that?
Yeah, what's Anderson Cooper have to say about this new disease? Let's check in with Cooper first before we report this.
You guys are on the right track. That's absolutely what I want you to see from this. Now, notice they're saying media, which is strange, right? But then they say ProMed, as if that's something we should know and have learned from. Now, we've been covering the pandemic intensely for the last 2.5 years. I have never seen anything sourced from ProMed before. Who is this ProMed? Well, they're a privately run disease surveillance system out of Boston. I spent some time today digging for their funders and came up empty. If you find them, please tell me. They don't disclose them. They do have several WHO scientists on their board. So that's interesting. And they are a subsidiary of a group called the International Society for Infectious Diseases, ICID, who also does not disclose their funders. They get grants and private donations. They also have WHO scientists on their board. Now, how does ProMed know about clusters of undiagnosed pneumonia in northern China when ProMed is based in Boston? Do they have a global network of doctors that are actually diagnosing patients and seeing patients? They do not. Here is how they tell us they find out about these pandemics. Again, recall they're from Boston, so listen in for that heavy Boston accent.
The Programme for Monitoring Emerging Diseases, ProMed, is a cutting-edge disease surveillance network by the International Society for Infectious Diseases, which provides timely alerts about global infectious disease outbreaks. As an open access and apolitical programme, ProMed provides you fast, near real-time reports about infectious diseases with background commentary by our team of infectious disease experts. So, how does it work? First, our global, multidisciplinary team collects the latest data from sources including healthcare provider reports, laboratory reports, social media posts, news articles, and information submitted directly by our users. Next, these datasets are screened by the ProMed moderators, who are subject matter experts, to validate their authenticity. Once verified, reports are classified to specific regional and topic networks and undergo copy editing and technical review. After a thorough review, the top moderator makes a final decision to distribute the post to over 80,000 people through email subscriber lists, social media, and the ProMed website. Support ProMed today to help us make a difference around the world.
Okay. That accent, that was probably the Boston accent in 1772, before we held a tea party. I was to say, like, that's about it.
That's not a Boston accent. I'm glad you got the joke. Some people did not. They're pointing out that that's a posh Welsh accent. I think that if you're trying to establish yourself as like global health organization, you've got to use this British guy as the voice of your,
Like when you go on to hire a voice actor, you want credible and British, because that always like raises the level of intelligence.
Yeah.
They're like, you do not choose American and Boston. No. Like, get out of here.
Don't do that. That's a wicked bad idea.
Yeah, it's a wicked. So we take all these wicked reports and we put them through a thing. And
right. Okay.
Like,
so let's get off the accent, because this is how we're sourcing a pandemic, is an algorithm. Basically, they're not there. They're not in China. China said some words that we can listen to. And also the World Health Organization says that, well, after China, spoke on this, we asked them for some documents. So we're going to review those documents. But for now, we have this online program that will just collate some stuff based on social media and the media. And then we're pretty confident that paints an accurate picture. ProMed also predicted the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. Interesting, right? Because I think we are in agreement that was maybe a chicken or egg phenomenon. Maybe it's something, did they predict it or did they foresee it, right? In a way that they could influence? That's a question we'll leave right out there. Now, again, they haven't been to China. They're just scanning the internet.
Or maybe they're working with Boston University. You remember, as we reported here on the show, and I did a deep dive on Boston University's COVID labs.
Yes, also a good point.
Which were, of course, where they were like literally combining the spike protein from Omicron to the original Wuhan strain. And we didn't know about this, but this was all happening right at Boston University. And who was the big funder behind all of that at Boston University? It was Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Right. But that's right there in their neck of the woods. So maybe they can just go down the street.
Okay. Now, here's ProMed's statement about this new infectious disease in China. Sorry, that's too little. You shouldn't be expected to see that. What they're saying now is basically they're scanning the internet and they found that there's overcrowded hospitals with children sick with pneumonia. They have been receiving intravenous drips and have to wait for almost 2 hours to be treated. That's most emergency rooms.
Right.
I don't know.
Wow, that's everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless you're bleeding or dying, most emergency rooms have long waits like that. But again, they're saying based on our algorithm, we know this. The World Health Organization says, well, ProMed told us and the media, so we believe it. And then we asked China for some extra documents. So they don't know this based on any firsthand source. None, zero. Okay. And then now, so they're saying, well, take some vaccines and also mask up. I do want to address this issue of masks, though, because a new study this week out of Norway found that people who wore masks during the COVID pandemic were more likely to get COVID by 75%. Here is this out for review paper, Association Between Face Mask Use and Risk of COVID. Their summary showing that people who said they use masks either a lot or often were between 30 and 40%. And then when you accumulate those, was over 75% more likely to get COVID. Now, this is a cross-sectional study and based on self-reporting of both mask wearing and COVID. But the authors say it points to the need for further studies about masking, which we're not going to get because the government is never going to apologize that they were wrong. Now, none of this was new to health officials when they insisted on mask mandates. In fact, some studies, we showed you this months ago, suggested that mask wearing could cause the virus to go deeper into the body and cause more severe cases of COVID. And in certain counties, this is called the Fogen effect or Fogen, I'm not sure. In some cases, the counties that had mask mandates had higher COVID deaths, not higher infection rates, but deaths, because they thought that the masks could be pushing the virus deeper into the lungs and cause more severe COVID. And the Norwegian study, in fact, says that this is most likely due to other unobservable things, but no one will study it and give us a real answer. So we have to extrapolate ourselves from reading studies. So I hope I've established a few things here. One, the WHO doesn't know shit about pneumonia in China. They haven't been there and they have no firsthand sources. They just think this from the internet. They're saying vaccine and masks in a foolhardy and almost sort of rote kind of way, even though those things are now unproven to help. It's almost like pandemic Tourette's. Like someone's got a fever, you just yell, masks,
mask,
vaccines, right? And now the third thing I'd like to establish is that China has said that they are going through the same post-COVID virus surge that other countries went through after they lifted pandemic rules. Now, China didn't relax COVID rules last winter, but most Western countries did. The US and Europe had their first full school year without any of those restrictions in place. And because of that, saw a surge in respiratory virus. Look at this chart from the CDC showing how respiratory viruses spiked last fall. This is a year ago from now, right? And had that same spike in respiratory diseases, including COVID, influenza, RSV. Also, pneumonia is not counted on this chart, but saw the same level of spikes. And we see less this year because we went through it. That's a growing pain that happens when you lift pandemic restrictions. That is exactly what's happening in China. And the WHO is freaking out because China. There are, though, some mainstream media organizations willing to say, like, hey, this is what happens. We expected this. Look at this surprisingly honest Bloomberg report saying that this is just a germ and it's China's first post-lockdown winter. We went through it too. Here they're saying this is what it is this myoplasma pneumoniae, which is sometimes called walking pneumonia because it's usually mild, rarely requires hospitalization, but it's making headlines. So, they're saying this is normal and unserious. There is no reports of any serious deaths or excess deaths or spiking rates of deaths. And again, we just don't know because the WHO has no boots on the ground. So how can we trust them when you see these headlines screaming about lockdown and craze in China? You should take it with this context. Let me know what you think of this in the chat.
Fascinating. It's fascinating about ProMed. Yeah, that's crazy. And I love that we just put it through an algorithm. We sift it all down. And then we have a final approval from one of our top moderators.
Yeah.
Before it's disseminated and pushed out to 80,000 email subscribers and shoved down your throats. And then news organizations run with the story.
Yeah, someone's got to find out who their funders are. It just wasn't something that I could have done today, but I'm pretty sure there may not be some up and up people back behind there.
Yeah, let's see if we can track it.
I wonder if Google marks their email as dangerous.
No, it probably got a clean filter right through. They probably have somebody at Google they're friends with, and it gets put right in your inbox as like an important alert about your health and safety from ProMed.
Right.
This is the kind of stuff. And this is, honestly, this is the kind of stuff that local news organizations like West Virginia or Ohio, their local news reports, they'll get this ProMed story into the newsroom, and then they'll do a story in their Health Watch segment.
They'll just read it.
They'll regurgitate it, and this
ProMed says this. And I, like I said, I've been reading pandemic documents now intently for almost 3 years, and I'm like, who the F are they?
When did they get on it? ProMed?
How come I don't know them? I have not one note on this organization, and they're pretty slippery. I'm not saying they're bad dudes, but I don't think this is something worth taking to the bank. Like, oh, here's the next pandemic, but that's what the media is telling us. So again,
they want compliance.
Yeah.
All right, we've got more news to get to. I want to look at these American companies which are pro-America. They are standing for American freedoms, and they are sick and tired of, American shoppers having to deal with being lectured about. You want to walk into a Target or whatever, and they've got non-binary clothes, or pick up a Bud Light and have them tell you about transgender ideology. No. The companies that we're going to talk about in the next segment specifically are pro-Constitution, pro-free speech. They stand for American values, and they don't want to lecture to you, and they're small businesses. We're going to talk about that in a second. But first, I don't know if you saw today, gold over $2,000 an ounce, which is crazy. And why? Because we could be seeing further it seems like a lot of people jumping on this, a lot of central banks buying up gold, of course. So the demand for gold is through the roof, and there's not enough supply of it. Same with silver right now. But of course, the fluctuations on what the Federal Reserve is doing with the interest rates. Like, are they going to raise rates? Are they not? It seems like the gold buyers right now are saying, no, rates are going to go down, which is great news for gold. It's great news for silver. That means people are going to be moving away from the US dollar in a big way, and they're going to be moving into traditional assets, real, hard, tangible assets like gold and silver. Anyway, our friends over at Lear Capital can help you get set up and buying gold inside of your own self-directed IRA. Now, if you're thinking about, like, how can I have my stuff grow tax-free for the rest of my life? Yeah, you need a self-directed IRA. And they can actually help you get set up with a self-directed IRA in about 10 minutes. It's that simple and that fast that they can help. And then what you can do is you can buy gold, silver, real estate, whatever you want inside of your own self-directed IRA. And the way that you structure it, it will grow tax-free if you set it up the way we have ours set up, which is what the traditional, I always get them confused, the Roth and traditional, the Roth. Yeah. So the Roth. So if you go to LearRedacted.com, that's the website, and or call their 1-800 number, 1-800-613-3557. You're going to get a free guide right now, which the gold and silver guide. And you'll also receive up to $15,000 in free bonus medals with a qualified purchase. So all you need to do is call Lear today. Call their 800 number. They'll help you get set up with it, and they're great on the phone. And you just say, hey, you heard them? You heard Clayton telling you about a self-directed gold IRA. What is that about? And they'll tell you about it. They'll walk you through the process. We have one. It's how we invest in a lot of different things, including gold and silver. So call their 800 number, 1-800-613-3557, or go to LearRedacted.com and get your free gold and silver investor guide and get up to $15,000 in free bonus medals with a qualified purchase. Well, it's no secret Americans are sick and tired of being lectured to every time they want to go to a Target or another store. Hey, all the big Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all the, Christmas shopping season is in full swing right now. And Americans are sick and tired of it when they go into a store, seeing a non-binary clothing line or picking up their favorite beer only to find a transgender spokesperson is now at the head of it. And Americans are sick and tired of it. We see it online. We see it in the comments here on a daily basis on our show. And of course, independent media is always looking for alternatives to these woke corporations. And I'm just thrilled to bring on a special guest today because our next guest has an alternative and a way for Americans to find freedom-loving companies out there that support free speech and support American values. Imagine that. We have to seek them out now. But our next guest is the CEO of Public Square. His name is Michael Seifert, and he created something really special. Michael, welcome to the show. I want to dive into exactly how you created this company. Welcome to the show. I love what you're doing.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, we started Public Square with a simple vision. There's a lot of companies in this country right now that don't like me. My family holds more conservative values, and for whatever odd reason, and we can talk about some of those reasons today, I'd imagine, corporate America has largely turned against me. And that's left us with a need to create a solution, a network of companies that do like me. They want my business, and they will serve me quality products in a friendly and free speech protecting and respecting way in the process. We've witnessed for about a decade now companies increasingly turning against our classic American principles, even at times canceling conservative Americans. And we were done. Heart of the COVID season, January of 2021, had this idea for a network of businesses that would love our country and our Constitution and the values that it protects. And we could put them in a digital environment at publicsquare.com where they could service this network of incredible consumers, and consumers could then know with blessed assurance that they were not funding their opposition. That way, we don't just have the ability to boycott. I can actually do something more positive with my money. I can move it somewhere else. So when Bud Light did what it did, we don't just have to boycott, which is important, but you can also move your money to a network of incredible breweries around the country that would never lecture you about gender ideology when you're just trying to have a peaceful night out with a nice cold glass of beer. So it's been an amazing network that's been created. We actually hit 1 million members on our platform at publicsquare.com faster than Twitter, Airbnb, Spotify. So the country's ready for this, and it's an honor to be creating a solution that Americans have hungered for.
Well, I think, in our audience, I think speaks to that. We have a few core sponsors here on Redacted. They've been with us for a number of years. And we always say when we talk about their ad spots on our show, these guys are brave. The things that we talk about here, we're talking about basic American values. We're talking about free speech. And the people that support our show, we have to remind our audience, hey, these guys are brave. Like, these guys are not going with the status quo here. I mean, the status quo, of course, is to have non-binary clothing in Target. It's to put up pride flags all over the place and transgender ideology and forcing it down your throat. It's companies forcing ESG and telling us that, your carbon footprint for everything you do. And people don't want to be lectured to anymore. And I think it's remarkable that you've now discovered really about 70,000 different brands that are, at a core, American values at their core, which is amazing. So can you walk people through, I'm just curious about this, how people actually, they go on their website, they launch your app, and what exactly do they find? How can they navigate to find a product that they want?
Well, it's pretty simple. You head to publicsquare.com and you're going to see a total myriad of different industries and products and services. There's also a near me function so that you can find the businesses in your local community that you would like to engage with, which is really special. We ultimately believe that if you want to change the country, you have to start in your own backyard. And so we wanted a local functionality to be core of this. It also helps create community, because a lot of people right now have hungered for the reality that they're not alone to be demonstrated in the economy, especially when all these companies are turning against us. You need to know that you're not the only one that's tired of it. And what people will find is that the majority of Americans, poll after poll reveals, do not want to be lectured about progressive politics when they're just trying to shop. And so the local functionality allows you to engage in your local community with those businesses that feel the way you do about the country. You can find everything from your new doctor, which is what my wife and I did a month ago. We found our new pediatrician on our platform, and we also did all of our Christmas shopping on the platform. You can also get your paper towels and your toilet paper, and you can buy more ammo. You can do all of this on the Public Square platform. You can also download it on the App Store and Google Play. And by the way, that as I mentioned earlier, you're not funding your opposition because each of the over 70,000 vendors have been vetted in alignment with our values, and they've had to sign off on the core values of the platform. You can find the core values at publicsquare.com. It's pretty simple. We basically ask that businesses love the country, the Constitution, and all the values that it protects and the freedoms that it protects, that you'd honor life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all Americans, that you'd protect the family unit and the sanctity of every life, that you'd recognize that small businesses are the backbone of our economy and must be protected and supported, and that our Constitution gives us our rights, not government, meaning government cannot take them away. This was incredibly important, especially in seasons like the COVID debacle that we went through, when government overextended its hand and forced businesses into infringing upon the rights and liberties of Americans. So when consumers go to Public Square, you're going to find businesses that have agreed with all of those things. you, that you're shopping in a way that honors the family unit, that honors life, that's not trying to infringe upon your liberty. One thing that's really neat too is that the majority of the businesses on our platform are not inherently political, meaning they're not businesses that are just known for their conservative or pro-American views. They're actually incredibly high quality businesses that the quality of the products stand alone, and it just so happens that they align with your values. That's really important because a lot of times people try to create products that simply rely on the fact that they're aligned with our values, but the quality demonstration is not quite there. That's not the case at Public Square. It's been amazing to witness these businesses that are all small businesses, by the way. Over 99% of our vendors are small businesses, and they have two things in common. One is they honor your values and they share them with you as somebody that loves the country and the Constitution. But more than that, number two, they're better quality than the cheap crap made from countries that hate us. And we hope that those two things joined in forces together will totally shift consumer spending habits in a positive direction.
I love this. What sort of pushback have you gotten? I imagine a number of years ago it would have been very difficult to do this. That you would have gotten a lot of, I mean, certainly we saw a lot of these companies were canceling conservative shows. They were pulling their advertising from shows like our friend Tucker Carlson. They were, saying, we're not going to stand for this. You're calling for end to war in Ukraine, and they're pro-war. So it's unbelievable how these companies have, managed to try to cancel a lot of these independent media and professional media. So I imagine a number of years ago, it must have been very, very difficult. Have you seen like a big sea change now in the United States, a real outcry for what you guys are offering?
We definitely have, and it's actually bigger than just commerce. Like obviously the space within the economy that we occupy is the world of retail marketplace shopping, consumerism, commerce transactions, et cetera. But this movement of a rising of alternatives spans into media, entertainment, pop culture. If you even look at the last 6 months, you see movies like Sound of Freedom that have totally eclipsed Disney films like Indiana Jones on 1/10 of the budget or less. You see songs like Richmond, North of Richmond achieve #1 status on the charts. And Oliver Anthony was the first artist in U.S. history that ever with no previous chart experience. We see Tucker experiencing an average of over 60 million views per video on X. And obviously, Tucker well. You guys are very similar in the sense that you're these rising independent voices that are speaking the truth, even when it's unpopular. And because of that, people like me are flocking to platforms like his and like yours to partake in this content because we're tired of what the establishment entities that have broken our trust so many times continue to feed us. Americans do not want what the establishment is selling any longer. And that frustration manifests itself in a lot of different areas, with us obviously being kind of the tip of the spear in this concept of the parallel economy. One thing I will note is that it gives me a lot of hope seeing that Americans are engaging with shows like yours, shows like Tucker's, songs like Richmond, North of Richmond, movies like Sound of Freedom, platforms like ours, platforms like Rumble. It gives me so much hope because that is a sign that Americans are still proactive and hopeful for a better future. I think that a lot of naysayers in the beginning when we started our company thought, well, I think we're too far gone. I just don't think the country's going to be receptive to this. I think that every company hates us at this point. Like, how are you going to find a network of ones that don't? And it's been incredibly refreshing to witness how strong the movement is for alternatives. By the way, to quantify this monetarily, because not only is this a very liberating movement, this parallel economy, it's also a lucrative one. To quantify this, if you just take conservative voters from 2020, and we're not just a conservative platform. Our businesses are, but we attract a lot of people from different political aisles on the consumer side. It's pretty incredible to witness, actually. But if you just narrowed us to conservative political voters in the 2020 election that we know of, that demographic quantifies out to $7 trillion in GDP. So Trump voters in 2020 accounts for $7 trillion in GDP. That's the third largest economy in the world, only behind the United States and China more broadly. And can you name even one corporate entity that's even trying to appeal to that network of consumers?
No
I
one
can't
at all. No, I can't at all.
So what happens when you can actually mobilize that group of consumers? It's a powerful economic force, and I'm glad the country's waking up to it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. I'm heartened by it. I really am. I think that because and look, it's not just about conservatism. I think it's just about a love of freedom, love of freedom of speech, American values, your right to pursue individual happiness, not be told what to do, what to say by a government, and that doesn't have to be conservative, right? It's American, and for so long now we've been beaten down by these companies that are driving their agendas down our throat. I know Vivek Ramaswamy wrote a book a few years ago called Woke Incorporated. This was long before he ran for president, and his book really resonated with me. These companies that speak out of both sides of their mouth. On the one side, Nike or whatever is telling you that their Black Lives Matter, while at the same time running sweatshops or whatever, in African countries or whatever it is. And so they're hypocritical, of course, on ESG and so forth. So I imagine was it tough for you at the beginning to find a lot of companies that were not talking out of both sides of their mouth, that were true to this mission, that were really honest, and they weren't grifting and all of this?
It was hard in an interesting way. It wasn't hard because they weren't out there. It was hard to convince them that this was going to be a marketplace that would serve their interests from a liberating perspective.
They've been screwed so many times. So they're like, oh, here comes this guy. Who's Michael coming along? He's going to save me. He's going to bring us all together and actually give us a platform where Americans can find real companies. I don't buy it. I've been burned before, right?
It's exactly right. That was the response that we received often. It was interesting. We launched in San Diego, California, which is where I'm originally from. Live in Florida now. I'm a political refugee out of California. But but when we launched in San Diego, California, September 26th of 2021, so just over 2 years ago, for our local regional launch, we launched with 150 businesses and 1,000 consumer members on the platform. Today, we're well over 1.5 million consumer members and well over 70,000 business vendors, but it started with this real intimate group. And all 150 of those businesses, I literally knocked on their doors. We had a team of folks with these flyers that had our values on it, and we went door to door to businesses that we had an idea may be with us and aligned and respecting our freedoms and our liberties, et cetera. And we asked them this set of questions and said, hey, we have this great new marketplace idea we've developed. We'd love for you to join it with us. We think that you're going to get a lot of new business from this. In fact, we're very confident you will, because we'd show them the data. 83% of millennials actively factor in the values a company espouses before they shop there. 71% of Americans more broadly. We knew that consumers were ready for this, but if you're somebody that does love the country and the Constitution and these classic American principles, you don't have options out there. We think you could be options. Would you join us on this journey? And it was amazing to witness a small but mighty group eventually lead to a strength in numbers that flourished on a broad grassroots scale. That 150 businesses turned into 500, and that turned into 2,000, and then that turned into 10,000. I remember the day when we crossed 10,000 businesses, and it felt like something shifted. All of a sudden, businesses were signing on and we would never even have to ask them. Then it became so overwhelming that businesses were signing on, in our vetting process, we had to hire more and more people to keep up with it. It was incredible to witness the grassroots momentum start to really shift in a positive direction. And today, I guarantee you, we'll have this episode go live here, and you're going to have hundreds of business owners sign up because they're saying, hey, I believe in the power of this consumer marketplace, and I want to get my products out there because time and time again, I've been burned by Facebook and Google and Yelp and Amazon that takes 40% of my transaction and gives me nothing of value in return, utilizes my data against me. The world of commerce has become weaponized against people that want a classic American marketplace experience. And Public Square is an antidote to that.
Well, I love it. I love it. And I love that, again, Americans are busy. They've got, they're working 3 jobs, it seems now, under Bidenomics. People are trying to just work hard to take care of their families. They don't have time to go out there if they want to go buy something for their daughter's birthday, to vet these companies, to do all the legwork, to find a company that's not going to lecture to them, push transgender ideology down their throats. So you guys are doing the heavy lifting and doing the vetting on these companies, and I think that that's a really valuable service. And again, I want to be pointing out here, I'm not affiliated with you guys in any way, right? I invited you on. I saw what you guys were doing with Tucker, and I said, I want to have Michael on. I want to share their message. I think that this is amazing, and any help that we can give here at Redacted to lift you guys up, that's my mission. So, Michael, I love what you are doing. Where can people go to sign up, download the app? Is it on iOS and Android and just on the web as well?
It is. You can head to the App Store or to Google Play, and you can find the app. You'll see a little purple square that shows up first there. You can download the platform. It's free. We're never going to ask you for any sort of premium version that you have to pay for. It's also free for a business to sign up as well. We make our money through brokering transactions with a transaction fee on the platform, as well as through subscription advertising. We don't have to sell consumer data to make our money either. If you're tired of ESG and DEI, you're tired of the weaponized marketplace against classic American values, regardless of your political affiliation, by the way, as you mentioned, 26% of our new members over the last month are registered Democrats. They're tired of the woke stuff. Americans are done with this. And so if you're ready for a refreshing shopping experience, you can head to publicsquare.com. We're trying to win the culture war through the power of the marketplace, providing a hopeful solution in the process. And we genuinely believe that your vote is not limited to every 2 and 4 years. You can vote every single day with the power of your wallet. And you can start that entire process at publicsquare.com.
Love it. Yeah. Americans are voting, not going to Disney movies. You can see it, right?
Yep.
It's the power of change. You can vote with your wallet. Michael, great to see you. Again, publicsquare.com. Go check him out. We wanted to invite Michael on to share this message. I think it's amazing. So congratulations, Michael, on what you've built. And we're very proud of it. So, Michael, thanks so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to see you.
And thanks so much, Michael. And thanks to all of you for supporting independent journalism, and thank you for supporting shows like Tucker's show. It's very easy for billionaires to make a lot of money in Fox News and MSNBC and NBC and CNN and all those channels, of course. And the advertisers are very comfortable there. But we have to fight tooth and nail to be able to do this show. So thank you so much for your support here. Thank you for your support when you jump onto our Plus Club. We have a Plus Club, which is, you can watch this show totally free. You can watch what we do here totally free on YouTube and Rumble and Twitter, or X, as you will. But if you'd like to support our channel a little bit more, we have a monthly Plus Club, which gives you access to premium content, exclusive interviews, live streams, and other things that you're not going to get anywhere else. Plus, it's a way to support what we do here on this show as a community. So all you need to do is go to redacted.inc and just click on the community button right there. And you can join us for the price of a cup of coffee once a month if you so choose. And you can gift it to somebody else as part of a Christmas gift if you'd like. And, we also have the store as well. So redactedstore.com. So again, thanks to all of you for your support. We really, really appreciate it. Glad to be back after the Thanksgiving break. We'll be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We hope to see all of you live at that time. Come join us. We love having you here live. And thank you guys so much for subscribing. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Have a great night, everyone.